If you're using self-harm as a coping strategy, doesn't always mean that you're going to be suicidal. And I think it's making that distinction of both of them.
If you say, oh, everybody that self-harms, suicide is the inevitable, it's the stereotype.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
And sometimes that can be the only thing in between. That
Yeah.
coping mechanism, it could be
Yeah.
that thing that they're doing just to cope because they don't want to die,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
But we also need to remember that there's some people that do die by suicide have never self-harmed once in their life.
Yeah.
And I think bringing up both points of, yes, sometimes people who are self-harming may not be suicidal, and then also people who have died by suicide may not have
Have been
touched
self-harmers.
self-harmed
Yeah.
once.
I think that's where people get mixed up, is it? Sometimes, depending on what you use to self-harm, it can, in effect, lead to more often than someone that doesn't self-harm,
Yeah.
but that's not necessarily the intention behind the behaviour.
And I think sometimes, especially when like maybe going to A&E for a self-harm behaviour, it could go like underneath as like a suicide attempt.
Yeah. And it's
When in fact
not
it wasn't.
necessarily.
And it's having that discussion with the person of the intention behind it.
Yeah.
Because both intentions are different.
Could make it worse.
Yeah.
Saying that this is, or stating it as a suicide attempt, could make the self-harming worse.
Yeah.
And I
So it's
think-
just making sure that we don't put them in
Yeah.
the same box.
It's just acknowledging they're often lumped together.
Yeah.
When in fact, as we said, they're so different. Like suicide is ending one's life. Self-harm is coping with life.
Yeah, so I think it's just making sure that we keep them separate. Like, yeah, maybe someone who self-harms is at higher risk of dying by suicide,
Yeah.
but it's all about the intention behind it.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that they are suicidal.
Yeah.
Yeah.